Hello, my name is Brianna, and I can't tell you how excited I am that you're joining me today. As you can see, the title of this presentation is called Your Daughter Can Heal Herself. Now, this training is unlike anything that you have seen before because what we are going to talk about is all about how your daughter has her own healing power within her, and this is what is going to transform her life. So who is this for exactly? This is for any mom who is seeing her daughter suffering from constant stress, overwhelm, anxiety, or depression. This is for any mom who feels like her daughter's stress, overwhelm, anxiety, or depression is holding her back in her life. And this is also for any mom who is concerned because even though her daughter has seen doctors or therapists and even tried medication, her stress, anxiety, and depression is just not getting any better. So in the next 45 minutes, I am going to share with you how your daughter can relieve her own stress, anxiety, or depression without any medication whatsoever. We are going to go over how your daughter can feel happier and have a more positive outlook on life. We'll go over how you and your daughter can start looking forward to her bright future. We'll go over how your daughter can heal her emotional pain without years and years of therapy. And we'll also talk about how your daughter can start taking full responsibility for her own healing and her transformation. My promise to you is that if you stick around till the end of this training, you are going to have the 5 shifts your daughter can make to heal herself. But for right now, I want to ask you just a couple of questions to see where you're at. So does this sound like you? Are you beyond frustrated that doctors want to fix your daughter's extreme stress, overwhelm, anxiety, or depression with a drug that has all sorts of side effects that scare you? Is your daughter's stress, anxiety, or depression really starting to take a toll on everything from your career, health, marriage, and the rest of your family? Does it break your heart because you feel your daughter is missing out on what should be the best years of her life because she is miserable and unhappy? Do you feel like you're failing your daughter as a mother because you're just running out of solutions? Are you overwhelmed because you're doing everything you can for your daughter, including therapy, but you're just not seeing her getting any better? Are you physically, emotionally, mentally drained and you don't know how you're going to keep going if things don't change? Do you feel like your daughter needs your help, but nothing you've tried is working? Well, I've got some news for you. You see, none of those things are the real problem. The real problem is that you haven't discovered what I call the shifts. And once you discover these shifts, and once your daughter makes them, here are all the things that are going to happen. You are going to see your daughter finally starting to take control of her own life. You'll find your daughter motivated in school and in her life. You'll feel a sense of peace in knowing that your daughter has found her inner happiness and she is able to access it every day. You'll be happy seeing your daughter spending time with friends and having a social life again instead of isolating herself in her bedroom. You'll be relieved to know that your daughter feels better than she ever has. And you are going to have that confidence in that whatever challenge comes your daughter's way, she is going to know how to handle it without being overcome by stress and overwhelm. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am before we get into all of this. I am an expert empowerment and transformational coach for teen girls and young women. I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology where I was trained to work with people to help them identify, heal, and release the core wounds that are creating suffering in their lives. I also teach transformational breathwork and emotional freedom technique to girls and young women to help uproot traumas, emotions, and limiting beliefs. When I was growing up, I dealt with extreme feelings of loneliness, unworthiness, and depression. I also struggled with this whole concept of happiness. What is happiness, actually? Back then, I thought that happiness was something that I got when I would finally meet my Prince Charming or have that perfect relationship. Or I thought I would finally be happy when I had that nice group of friends that I always wanted. But you see, I had it all wrong because happiness is not something that we get outside of ourselves. It actually comes from within. But because at that time I was struggling from poor self-esteem and not loving myself and not feeling like I was enough, I wasn't able to actually cultivate that happiness. I woke up one day in my early 30s and I realized that I couldn't live my life that way anymore. Something had to change. So I became a young woman on a mission to change my life from average and mediocre to amazing. And I knew I could do it. I immersed myself in my personal and spiritual development. I read hundreds of books. I attended seminars, workshops, retreats. I even studied under Don Miguel Ruiz, who is the author of the Four Agreements. And then I got a master's in spiritual psychology. I was so committed to doing anything and everything that I could do to heal my life so I could make it better and that so I can be truly happy. And while I was doing all of this, something occurred to me. I started thinking about all of the teen girls and young women out there that were suffering and they weren't getting any better. I thought to myself, why do these girls that suffer from anxiety and stress and depression, why does therapy and medication have to be the only choice that you can make to help your daughter? I knew from my own personal experience that teen girls and young women deserved more options than what they were being given. What I discovered throughout all of those years working on myself is that there are really only 5 shifts that your daughter can make to empower and transform her life. Now, the best thing about these shifts are that they work on anyone. I know every girl has a different past and a different story, but these shifts, they are powerful and they are effective, and they will work on any girl to transform her life so she doesn't have to suffer from extreme stress, overwhelm, anxiety, or depression any longer. Before we dive into the 5 shifts, I want to acknowledge really quick this epidemic of anxiety and depression among teenage girls. And I also want you to know that whatever you are going through with your daughter, you are not alone and I am here to help. So let's just take a look at a couple of these. Roughly 3 out of 4 teenage girls are experiencing some sort of extreme stress or anxiety. 13% of teen girls have attempted suicide, and the suicide rate among teen girls has reached a 40-year high in 2015. Now, I am not going to sugarcoat this. These statistics, yes, they're alarming, but I also want you to have some hope, because what I'm about to share with you can turn everything around for your daughter. So let's just dive into shift number 1 right now. Shift number 1, mind-body connection. Have you ever taken your daughter to a doctor before because you were worried about her extreme stress or overwhelm in her life, or the anxiety or depression? And the doctor's solution is to come back with a prescription for Prozac, Lexapro, or any other drug that has some serious side effects that scare you. Now, what I'm about to say might make a few of you angry with me, but that's okay, because you know what? I'm here to serve you to the truth, and I'm here to open up your eyes to what else is possible for your daughter. So, if your daughter is relying on any sort of drugs as a means to cope with whatever is going on in her life, there is a very good possibility that she is going to become dependent on that drug. And what happens when eventually, years from now, she wants to get off of that drug, but she's not able to because she doesn't know how to navigate her life without the drugs? Wouldn't we all want to be free and not dependent on anything that's chemical and not natural for our bodies when we have all of these different methods and ways to heal ourselves? We've got to talk about this mind-body connection. Your daughter's thoughts and her feelings have a direct effect on her body. Every thought and feeling that she has creates a chemical. Now, these chemicals of stress knock the body out of balance as well as the brain. So it's normal to have short-term stress. I mean, we all have short-term stress, but it's not normal to have long-term stress. And when your daughter has long-term stress, the body can't return back to balance, which creates anxiety, depression, and all sorts of other health issues. The power of your daughter's mind is everything. Whatever she is thinking about at any given moment is basically telling her body and her immune system to either stop and not work because she's got to run from a stressor in her life, or everything is cool, everything is calm, and her body can relax. So your daughter is either in fight or flight, or she's in rest and repair. It is her beliefs that are going to toggle that switch. Her mind and her beliefs are everything. If your daughter can break the stress response, it allows her body to return back to order. Your daughter can actually turn on this stress response just by thought alone. So if she is thinking about her problems, if she is anticipating a challenging event, something at school that she is dreading, a test that she is worried about, the body actually thinks it's in that experience, and the body gets out of balance. This is how anxiety brews in your daughter. This is how she starts feeling stressed. This is how she starts feeling overwhelmed. And this can all lead to depression. So when the body and the brain are in long-term stress, many girls will go to any lengths to numb because it's too hard to live in that state for so long. They'll do anything from cutting, drinking, drugs, even suicide because they can't take how they're feeling. It's too difficult. They don't know how to escape it. There are things that your daughter can do to interrupt this stress response. And when she learns how to do this, this is going to cause her body to go from a state of emergency to a state of growth and repair. When your daughter's body has a chance to reorganize itself, her anxiety will diminish, her stress levels will go down, and her heart rate will go back to normal. This is what most doctors are not telling you. The key for your daughter to relieve anxiety and depression is working on inner balance and happiness. You can't put this in a drug. Most girls do not understand that their thoughts and their emotions are actually affecting the way that their body works and functions. So when your daughter can start turning her thoughts around, instead of the worrying, instead of the focusing on all of her problems and challenges in her life, when she can start asking herself some different questions and refocus her mind in a different sort of way, then this can actually allow her body to get back to normal. So if she could ask herself a question like this, what would it be like to be happy? See, most girls that are anxious or depressed, they don't even know how to answer this question because they've never allowed themselves to feel happy. So they don't know what it would be like. But when they can actually start to think about, what could it feel like to be happy? You see, then the body starts responding. Then the body starts calming down, and the body doesn't feel like it's in fight or flight. It doesn't feel like it's in a long-term stress anymore, and it can actually calm down. But it all starts with where your daughter's mind is at. Does that make sense? Another question that your daughter can be asking herself is, what would I have to change about myself to live in peace and happiness? So what are the kinds of thoughts that your daughter can have day in and day out to feel peaceful and calm and happy? This is what is going to change everything for your daughter. And I want to share something with you. I work with a lot of girls, and they come to me and they are, they have a lot of stuff going on, right? But, this one girl in particular, she came to me, she was 19 years old, and she had been dealing with anxiety and periods of depression for much of her teen life. And just 2 months after deciding to work with me, she is more confident, she's feeling more empowered, and she's no longer burdened with her anxiety and worry. Shift number 2, emotional release. It's a phase. She'll just grow out of it. Just wait till she goes off to college, then it'll get better. Moms, how many of you have either heard this or maybe you've said it to yourself? Well, like I said before, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything, so I just want to be real with you. Whatever your daughter is going through, it is not a phase. It's not something that she grows out of, and it's not something that disappears when she goes off to college, because the problems and the issues that she's having right now with anxiety, extreme stress, or depression, that stays with her until it is properly healed. Therapists, well-meaning counselors, and parenting books love to give coping strategies. If only it were that simple. Coping strategies are absolutely useless because they don't address the root problem. And it's a mere band-aid to your daughter's issues and does nothing for the long term. So everything that I talk about in this training, I am not giving you any sort of band-aids because I want more for your daughter than a quick fix. I want your daughter to have lasting results. So emotional blockages can lead to physical blockages like anxiety, depression, headaches, digestion issues, and disease. Trauma, painful experiences, or unhealed relationships of any kind will leave a lasting imprint on your daughter's mind, soul, and her entire life until it is acknowledged, healed, and accepted. Suppressed emotions are what create suffering. So in order for your daughter to get past the suffering, she has to release these suppressed emotions. And there are several different ways that she can do it. One way is called emotional freedom technique. And it's also known as tapping. Now, tapping gets to the root of whatever it is that is going on with your daughter because it actually balances the mind and the body. And it changes what she is doing, how she is feeling, and how she experiences the world. Tapping helps to calm the nervous system and the body, and it rewires your daughter's brain to respond in healthy ways. So let me give you an example of tapping. I worked with a girl who was being bullied. She was a 13-year-old girl, and she was being bullied every day, not just at school, but also on social media. So you know how deeply that affects a young girl, especially a 13-year-old. So she was feeling depressed and she was feeling anxious in her life. And so before we started the tapping, I asked her on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, where is your anxiety right now with all of this? And she said it was at about a 7, okay? So then I took her through a whole tapping session and it lasted about 30 minutes. And then at the end, I asked her, where is your anxiety around all of this on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest? And she said it's about a 2. And if we had had more time, I probably could have gotten it down even more. But that's amazing that we were able to, in a short amount of time, get her anxiety down from a 7 to a 2 in about 30 minutes. Emotional freedom technique is a really powerful tool, and I have seen such positive results with my clients when they do tapping for themselves. Another powerful healing modality that you won't read about in any of your parenting books, and I can assure you that if your daughter is seeing a therapist, that the therapist is not going to be doing breath work with her, at least not this sort of breath work that I am talking about. Now, what is breath work? Breathwork is a transformative breathing technique that releases stuck emotions that have been suppressed up and out of the body. So earlier I talked about the suppressed emotions, that it's really important that your daughter is able to release them because it's what's happening is that any trauma or any painful experience, all of those stuck emotions stay inside your daughter, and we have to get them out because that's what is creating the anxiety and the depression and her not feeling good in her life. So we've got to move that stuck energy out of her. Breathwork is very simple and it's easy. All she does is she lies down on like a yoga mat or a blanket, and it's a series of 3 breaths, and there's music that's playing in the background, and she's guided through the whole entire process. And some girls, that when I have taught breath work to some girls, they sometimes get emotional and they cry, and they don't always know like why are they crying? And it's powerful because it's good that they're crying. They're releasing those stuck emotions and energy that has been stuffed down within them for so long. And I've heard girls say this before, like when they leave breath work, when they're done, they feel lighter, they feel more free, they feel more confident, more positive. They feel full of like love and gratitude for their life. This is powerful. I mean, I can take any girl that's suffering from depression or anxiety or anything that's going on in her life to feel that way at the end of breath work. There are not that many things out there that can take your daughter from depression and anxiety to love and gratitude in 45 minutes. And here's another really amazing thing about breath work is that your daughter isn't actually talking about any of her problems or any of the trauma or painful experiences that she has gone through. Why? Because breath work is all done through the breath. And so what I find so often is that teen girls don't want to talk about their problems all the time, right? Whether they don't want to go there because it's uncomfortable, they just don't, they don't want to go there all the time. And so if they don't want to talk about it, well, we still have to work with that to bring all of the suppressed emotions out. And breath work is the perfect answer for all of that. And I want to tell you about one of my clients. I have done breath work with her several times, and she's 17 years old. Right before I started working with her, she was in a real dark place in her life. And, I've introduced her to both breath work and tapping. And she even practices breath work on her own. And that's a really amazing thing because it's one thing for me to teach my clients to do it and then she does it, she does the breath work with me. But it's a whole nother thing that when your daughter can actually learn to do this on her own and she can do it at home by herself, that is what takes her on a whole another level of her healing and transformation. Because what is the title of this whole training? She can heal herself, right? So if she puts in the work and she puts in the effort to do this sort of the breath work that I'm talking about, these are the sort of things that are going to give her those real results that you want for her. So, with this girl that I have been working with, she says that breath work and tapping makes her feel calmer and more peaceful. That is powerful, and breath work has this effect on so many of the girls that I work with. Shift number 3, mastery of mind. What do most teen girls do in therapy sessions? Well, whether your daughter goes to therapy or even if she doesn't go to therapy, I will tell you this. More often than not, they are talking about your daughter's issues, her problems, what she can't seem to get past in her life, how she is feeling, right? But they're not talking about reprogramming your daughter's mind. They're not talking about what she can do to start being conscious of her thoughts. And this is why your daughter could go to therapy for years without seeing any real results, because it all goes back to this mastery of mind and whether your daughter can reprogram her mind or not. I want to talk about why reprogramming your daughter's mind is so important so that she doesn't have to be suffering from anxiety and depression anymore. So let's talk about this. From the 3rd trimester of pregnancy all the way up to 7 years of age, your daughter was in a lower vibrational state. Now, this lower vibrational state was called theta. And I want you to think of theta as almost like a hypnosis state. Your daughter was literally recording everything that was going on around her and programming it into her subconscious mind. So this is also why kids can pick up language so easily when they are younger. Like the best time to, if your daughter wants to pick up like sign language or Spanish or French, the best time to teach her these languages is like when she's really young. And why? Because her mind is in a lower vibrational state, just like what I said before. And it's almost like she's in a hypnosis. So she is literally recording everything that is going on around her. And she is making meaning of every single thing that she is seeing happening around her. But here's the problem. Our minds are only 5% conscious and 95% subconscious. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, Brianna, what does that mean? Let me share with you what that means. Your daughter is going to play out those programs for 95% of her life. So if you're thinking to yourself, what programs? What are you talking about? So the programs are the beliefs and the meanings that she associated to everything that she was seeing going on around her from the time she was a baby all the way up until 7 years of age. So your daughter right now is operating off of programs of limitations that were put there in the first 7 years of her life. After age 7, your daughter picked up new programs. So these programs are the beliefs about herself and the world. And she picked this up through repetition. Now, we all know what repetition is, right? When we do something over and over and over again, it becomes like a habit. So when your daughter repeated an emotional state like anxiety or depression, and she repeated it over and over and over again, it became like a habit. And then that became her personality. That is why maybe if you ask your daughter, well, why can't you just snap out of your depression? Why can't you just snap out of, being anxious? They can't just snap out of it because they have programmed their mind to feel that certain way. Not just their mind, but their body now has been programmed to feel that way as well. Does that make sense? So how can your daughter stop living from these old, outdated, and limiting programs? It all starts with this. Your daughter needs to break the habit of being herself. What does that mean? Who would your daughter have to be so that she was no longer anxious or depressed? That's who she has to become. She actually has to reinvent herself into somebody else, a new personality, replacing the anxiety or depression. Replace it with joy and gratitude, love, peace, and happiness. This is how your daughter becomes her own healer. And this is how she starts to take control of her own life so that she is no longer a victim. She doesn't have to be a victim of anxiety anymore, and she doesn't have to be a victim of depression anymore. She does this through repetition. It's not enough to practice these new beliefs and emotional states once in a while, because change will never occur by doing the bare minimum. I'll use the example of going to the gym and lifting weights, right? If you want to get muscles, you don't go one time and expect, looking down at your biceps and expect to have muscles after just one time of going to the gym. No, you have to go over and over again. Well, the same is true for your daughter mastering her mind. If she has been programmed in her mind to feel anxious or to feel extreme stress and overwhelm or depression, it's going to take more than 1 or 2 times of creating new beliefs and thoughts for herself to feel a different way. So mastery of mind is so powerful, but it's all about consistency. It's all about your daughter doing it every single day, because if she's not doing it that often, she won't have the results that she wants for herself in her life. You know, something that's really important for all teen girls to know is that they are not victims in their lives, right? But so many girls walk around with almost like, they're carrying around this invisible badge of honor because they feel like they're a victim, right? And they have to prove to themselves, well, I went through all of this. Like, my mother was an alcoholic, therefore I get to feel this way. Or, this happened to me. I went through all of that trauma, therefore I get to feel depressed. Like, they give themselves these excuses as to why they get to feel this way and why they can't get out of it. But the problem with doing all of that, it just keeps them in this being a victim, right? And there's no empowerment in being a victim. And so one of the most powerful things I do with the girls that I work with is to change their story, right? They are no longer victims, but they actually have to see themselves not as a victim anymore, as someone who's empowered. But in order to do that, they've got to change their story of how they see their life. Because it's really easy for girls to go, woe is me. It's really easy for girls to say, I lived a really, I struggled so much in my life, therefore I get to feel depressed and I get to feel anxious. No more excuses. When girls can start to take ownership of their lives and realize that all of that was just holding them back, when they can drop that and step into who they are here to be and what they are here to do and how they want to feel, game on. Everything changes from that moment. But as long as your daughter continues to see herself as a victim, she will always be a victim. So if your daughter wants to say goodbye to the anxiety or depression, then she's got to reprogram her mind to a new way of thinking every single day. Shift number 4, use the secret weapon. Yes, I have a secret weapon. I will tell you what it is in just a second. Self-love, that's the secret weapon. It's one of the most powerful tools for your daughter to relieve her anxiety or depression. You might believe that the most important thing that you can do for your daughter is to tell her and to show her how much you love her. But that's not entirely true. Your daughter must earn her own self-esteem in order to believe it. She actually has to learn how to cultivate her own self-worth. So it's really important to understand that, the title of this presentation is that your daughter can heal herself, but a lot of that healing starts with self-love. So whether your daughter is experiencing, extreme stress in her life or overwhelm, anxiety or depression, a big part of healing all of that is through self-love. So let's take a look at what your daughter is at risk for when she doesn't have self-love for herself, when she doesn't love herself. She's at risk from running from one relationship to the next because she's always feeling needy and desperate for that love and acceptance that she can't give to herself. She's at risk for being plagued with self-doubt and insecurities that leave her feeling like she's never going to be good enough. She's at risk for getting into emotionally, physically abusive or toxic relationships because she doesn't know her worth and value. She's at risk for stopping herself from pursuing her dreams in life, all because she doesn't believe in herself. And your daughter is also at risk for numbing her long-term stress and sadness with food, drugs, drinking, shopping, sex, anything and everything that she can find so that she can avoid the empty void inside of her from not loving herself. So I want to talk about this statistic because it's important. An estimated 19 to 30% of college females are diagnosed with an eating disorder. If your daughter doesn't love herself, she's going to constantly put down her appearance. Her body will then become like her very own punching bag that will take one hit after one hit after one hit. And she is going to feel it emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally. Her feelings of unworthiness will filter into every aspect of her life. I want to share with you something really quick. So these text messages are from a mother of one of my clients. And, as you can see on the left, she says, as her mom, this brings me so much joy. My heart is filled with happiness that she is finding new ways and healing. This is why this work is so important, because this is healing work and this is transformational work. And I have to say that your daughter is the one that is healing her life. Like, I am showing the girls that I work with how to do this kind of work, but they are the ones that are doing it, because only your daughter can heal her own life. And the second that she realizes that and she understands that is really when she starts taking control of her own life. I want to take a quick look at the old way and the new way of doing things to help your daughter with her stress, anxiety, or depression. So, talk therapy. It's old, it's stale, it has mainstream approaches that have been used for 50 plus years with a therapist that probably hasn't built any real connection with your daughter. It's relying on drugs to help your daughter that can have nasty side effects. There's no ongoing support. There's no accountability. It's stuffy and an intimidating therapist office, and it's outdated and ineffective. Let's look at the new way of doing things. Cutting edge content and non-traditional practices with unique approaches that include tapping, breathwork, deep inner healing, guided meditations, mindset growth, gratitude, emotional release, self-love, and actually working with someone your daughter can relate to and connect with. The sessions are in the comfort of your daughter's home, and there is ongoing support and accountability in between the sessions. Shift number 5, invest in coaching. I believe that every single teen girl needs a coach, because I have had multiple coaches in my life, and they have helped me to become the person that I am today. And I believe every teen girl needs help in seeing what is possible for her life, that she has the power to transform and she has the power to heal her life. It's not about someone else doing it for her. It's about her doing it for herself. But she needs someone to show her how she can start healing her life. Don't go at it alone. Find the best coach out there and spend what it takes to work with them. Today, I promised that you were going to learn how your daughter can relieve her own stress, anxiety, or depression without medication. I said you would learn how your daughter can feel happier and have a more positive outlook on life. I said we would go over how you and your daughter can start looking forward to her bright future. I also said that we would cover how your daughter can heal her emotional pain without years and years of therapy. And I also said that you would learn how your daughter can start taking full responsibility for her own healing and transformation. So this is what your daughter needs. Number 1, she needs to understand the mind-body connection. Number 2, she needs emotional release. Number 3, she needs to understand the mastery of mind. Number 4, she needs to use her secret weapon, and that is self-love. And number 5, She needs to invest in coaching. Now, these 5 steps alone are enough for your daughter to heal her life. The future belongs to those girls who can make the mind-body connection, release their emotional pain, reprogram their minds, and love themselves unconditionally. Now you have a choice. You can either take all of this information that I've just shared with you and you can set it aside and you can say, you know, that was a great training, but I'm going to go back to my life now. And you're going to see that your daughter is not getting any better and she's actually only going to get worse. So that is one thing that you can do. Or you can make a decision right now that you are going to do something different because you know that your daughter is not getting any better unless you do something different. This can be the moment that changes everything for your daughter so that she can start learning how to take control of her life, so that she can start learning how she can overcome the anxiety and depression so it doesn't ruin her life for one more minute. This is what you can decide for your daughter right now, but the decision is yours. Here's how I can help. I've set aside some time in the next few days to speak to you and your daughter about how she can apply these shifts for her life starting today. So whatever your daughter's biggest challenges are with her, whether it's anxiety or extreme stress and overwhelm or depression, I know how to overcome it. Both of these discovery sessions are absolutely free. So on the call, I'll work with you to create a plan for your daughter so that she can heal from her overwhelm, anxiety, or depression and finally reclaim her power. Immediately after I speak with you, I'll get on a call with your daughter because as much as you may want this for her, her connecting with me and feeling inspired to want it for herself is equally as important, and that is going to make all of the difference. Please pay attention to this part because this call is not for everyone. I am really busy working with my clients and also taking calls from prospective clients. And so I can't speak to every single mom that watches this webinar. So you have to meet this criteria in order to book a call with me. You must be serious about wanting to help your daughter. Your daughter must be open and willing to speak with me. And you must be open to thinking outside of the box for a new approach to help your daughter with her anxiety or depression, and not tied to a single belief that says traditional therapy or drugs is the only way to get results. If that's you, then book a session now. Why am I doing this? I am doing this because I believe that every girl in this world deserves to live an abundant life, to feel grateful for every day that she is alive, to love herself, to know how enough she is, to be happy, and to know that she is her own healer and she is the one that will transform her life. Don't allow your daughter to waste another minute of her precious life. It's time for your daughter to start living her best self, her highest self. Let's find out who that person is. Thank you so much for joining me with this presentation. Please go to briannacolwyn.com/apply and book your appointment to speak with me today. Spaces are very limited, so sign up now. Once you go to this link, you will go to my calendar page, and this is where you can pick a day and time that works for you so we can have our call. And then after that, you'll be taken to my little questionnaire, and it's about like 5 or 6 questions, and it's just going to help me prepare for the call that I have with you. So once you fill all of that out, we'll be all set. and then we'll get on our call that you have scheduled, and it's going to be the best 45 minutes that you have ever spent working to help your daughter. So again, please go to briannacolwyn.com/apply, and I am looking so forward to speaking with you soon. Bye for now.